understanding of proper cleaning and sanitation reflect our professionalism, success, and reputation. Understanding the chemistry and proper protocols protects not only yourself, but your clients and your shared environment. In this module, we will review how bacteria, viruses, and blood-borne pathogens spread, discuss decontamination method 1 and 2, plus standard precautions. Let's get started. Bacteria. While there are thousands of types, they fall into two primary categories. From non-pathogenic bacteria, they break down food, protect our bodies from infection, and stimulate our immune system. They are helpful and harmless in their proper environment. The second group, which is our primary focus, are pathogenic, which cause disease or infection when they invade the body. As cosmetologists, bacteria is of concern, but we can identify it without any testing by recognizing the indications of pathogenic bacteria. What does that look like? Inflammation. The presence of pus indicates a local infection such as an abscess or a pimple. Staph is a common and beneficial bacteria that exist as part of the normal flora on everyone's skin. However, it can cause severe problems if it migrates to an area that it's not supposed to be. For example, on soft tissue or open areas of skin, the CDC says 30% of people in the US carry it on their nose without any symptoms. Of those people, about 1% carry the MRSA strain of staph, which is highly resistant to conventional treatment. Staph infections present initially as swollen red bumps that may look like pimples. It's warm to the touch, full of drainage, and may be accompanied by a fever. Do not perform services if the client's skin, scalp, neck, hands, or feet show visible signs of infection. This bacteria can be transferred to and picked up off surfaces, use of unclean tools, or even skin-to-skin contact. Viruses are parasitic, submicroscopic particles that infect and reside in its host cells. There are many common viruses, such as the common cold, respiratory and GI infections, COVID-19, HPV, influenza, hepatitis, HIV. Really, the list goes on and on. We all come in contact with viruses daily. It may be beneficial to contact your healthcare provider to discuss vaccinations that may help better protect you against infection. Blood-borne pathogens are disease-causing microorganisms that are carried in the blood or by bodily fluids. Examples include hepatitis, HIV, and AIDS. In our industry, we are exposed to these infections when performing extractions, waxing, tweezing, performing peels, or cosmetic injections. We should use great caution to avoid cutting or damaging the client's skin. It's to be noted that HIV is spread mainly through sharing of needles by drug users and unprotected sexual contact. There are no documented cases that indicate the virus can be spread by casual contact during hair, skin, and nail services. Parasites are organisms that grow, feed, and shelter on or in another organism. Head lice is one example. Scabies is another contagious skin disease that is caused by an itch mite. These should only be treated by a doctor. Fungi are microscopic parasites that include mold, mildew, and yeast. They have the capability of producing contagious diseases. Common types of fungal infections are Tinea pedis, ringworm, athlete's foot, and nail infections. A very common fungal infection you would encounter is folliculitis, which is inflammation of the hair follicle. Tinea versicolor or sunspots is also a fungal infection caused by yeast. Remember, it doesn't matter if it's bacterial, viral, parasitic, or fungal. They all have the ability to spread to others by contact with implements, surfaces, towels, basically anything that touches your clients, including your gloved hand. Pathogenic bacteria, viruses, or fungi can enter the body through broken or inflamed skin, the mouth, nose, eyes, or ears. Our body's first line of defense to protect and control infection is healthy, unbroken skin, followed by body secretions, white blood cells, and antitoxins. If we think about it, these diseases can be very overwhelming, and at this point, you may even want to start offering services in a hazmat suit. But we have effective preventative measures that will keep us and our clients as safe as possible. focusing on decontamination method 1, which involves a 2-step process, cleaning and disinfecting. To clean tools and surfaces, remove all visible dirt and debris with warm water and liquid soap. Any hinged or grooved implements on surfaces will need to be scrubbed with a small bristle brush. The next step is disinfection, which eliminates most organisms. Disinfectants will need to be used on surfaces and multi-use implements such as tweezers and extraction tools. Disinfectants may come already mixed, but many are concentrated. When mixing, take great care to follow exact mixing instructions to achieve efficacy and wear proper PPE such as gloves while mixing solution, as it can be harmful to the skin. When choosing your preferred EPA-registered disinfectant, consider the needed contact time and how often it needs to be changed. There are several to choose from, so use one that works well in your spa environment. Make sure to take the time to read your labels. They will contain vital information such as mixing ratios, submersion and contact time, and the registered EPA number. Certain cleaners have not been well understood. For example, it wasn't until 2021 splashless bleach was considered an EPA-registered disinfectant, while regular bleach has always been considered EPA-registered. The full requirements for cleaning, disinfection, and sanitation can be found in Cosmetologist Health and Safety Rules 16, Texas Administrative Code Chapter 83. In some spa environments, they choose to use decontamination method 2, which is cleaning, then sterilizing. Sterilizing completely destroys all microbial life. After cleaning tools by removing all visible dirt and debris with warm water and liquid soap, you would place your tools into an autoclave. High-pressure steam autoclaves are most effective. These devices require weekly testing to ensure they're working properly by means of a spore test. If your autoclave is not working properly, instead of sterilizing your tools, you may in fact be creating a breeding ground for organisms to thrive. Single-use items are just that, single-use. Cotton tips, balls, gauze, sponges, and tissues are all single-use items that should be thrown away after use. Before use, they should be kept in your dispensary in a clean, orderly way in clearly marked containers. What if a single-use item has been exposed to blood or skincare debris? It needs to be double bagged and marked biohazard to be disposed of. Porous multi-use items such as Towels and other linens can be disinfected by washing with detergent and bleach. Always use gloves when handling soiled laundry. Your laundry hampers should be disinfected daily. Make sure your linens are dried thoroughly, and after folding, keep them away from soiled laundry. If linens come in contact with blood, unhealthy nails, or other bodily fluids, they must be discarded immediately. Standard precautions were introduced in 1996 by the CDC. Under standard precautions, a worker or a cosmetologist must assume that all blood and body fluids are potential sources of infection, regardless of the perceived risk. Workers are expected to use standard precautions to protect themselves and others. Wear gloves when in contact with any blood or bodily fluid is likely. Standard precautions apply to blood, all bodily fluids, all secretions, excretions, mucous membranes, and broken skin. Avoid environmental contamination with used gloves by removing, discarding, and cleaning hands before touching any other surfaces like counters, doorknobs, or faucets. If you're using needles or other sharps, handle them carefully and avoid recapping needles, and handle them with care and dispose of them in puncture-resistant containers. So we've gone over a lot of information that in fact might be pretty boring to you. But a key concept we want to take away is although we are always at risk for infection, with proper cleaning and disinfection, we can manage that risk. Now that you have all this head knowledge, what does it actually look like to implement this in the treatment room? Let's see. First, what's the best way to wash your hands? Wet your hands with clean, running water, warm or cold, it doesn't matter, and turn off the tap and apply soap. Lather your hands by rubbing them together with the soap. Lather the back of your hands, between your fingers, and under your nails. Scrub your hands for at least 20 seconds. Need a timer? hum or sing the alphabet song.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So now you've washed your hands for a full 20 seconds.
If you suspect your client to have an infection, you kindly ask your client to leave and seek medical care and reschedule their appointment. At the beginning of your day, ensure that you've prepped your room. It should be neat and clean. Your EPA should be fresh and ready to do its job of disinfecting. A clean room consists of a covered trash can, floors free of debris. Any air purifiers, dehumidifiers, or fans should be cleaned once a week. Never store food or drinks in fridges containing spa or salon products. Preventing cross-contamination events starts with prepping the single-use items that you need for your service. This requires that you have planned ahead, knowing how much of an item you need for each service, and what your next service will be before the client walks in. Here are some friendly reminders. Always wash your hands with soap and water, or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Prepare single-use items needed for the service. While performing services, hands should never return to the dispensary or jarred product. Avoid touching your face during services. With a busy schedule, it's easy to try to find ways to cut time off your service. As tempting as it may be, we would never want to sacrifice in our cleaning. We should not attempt to clean our tools at our workstation. Remember, we are the defense line for the client's safety, and we have the legal responsibility to follow state and federal guidelines. So now we're gonna get ready in the treatment room for a facial. To prevent cross-contamination events, I like to get all of my products ready before my client comes in. So I've pre-chosen all of the products I want to use on my client. And I have these awesome little dispensary cups. You could also use a paint palette if you wanted something that you could wash and EPA and reuse.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and dispense all the product that I need. My cleanser, I like to use quite a bit of cleanser, so I'm gonna fill that up. Then my enzyme, my toner that I'll use for her, my mask, and all of these bottles are sanitized in the morning before we get started, so we don't have to worry about picking up any germs because we have fresh gloves on and our products are nice and clean. Get her serums that I want to use. This is my favorite serum. A little goes a long way. Get that ready. A little bit of sunscreen. And finally, an eye cream. The next thing I make sure to have prepared are all of my single-use items. So I've already done that, and they're on this Kleenex. I have my gloves for my service, my spatulas, my cotton rounds, my gauze, Q-tips, and then I also am anticipating using my tweezers and my gua sha stone. I'm gonna cover them up until my client comes into the room, and I'll put a Kleenex over my products so that as soon as she walks in, we're ready to go. After your service, before your next client enters the service area, we need to do the appropriate cleaning as well. All tools should be cleaned and then immersed into disinfectant. Bottles should be cleaned and disinfected. Workstation surfaces and high-touch surfaces should be cleaned. With gloved hands, soiled linens and sheets should be removed. Then you should prepare your space for the next service with sanitized hands. Many of us have instruments that you cannot fully immerse into disinfectant solution. These tools should come with recommendations from the manufacturer. Some may be able to be removed from the non-immersible electric piece, such as a high-frequency wand, and you may also be able to disinfect them with disinfectant wipes. Here's a few answers to common questions. Why can't we use rubbing alcohol as a disinfectant? It does not kill bacterial spores. It evaporates too quickly, which doesn't allow enough time to penetrate cell walls. Do I have to use an antibacterial soap? No, it's not proven more effective. What the difference is though, regular hand soap works by manually removing the germs from your hands, while antibacterial soap uses chemicals to remove germs. This is why some feel like the antibacterial soap leaves their hands more dry. What are the differences in disinfection and sterilization?
Disinfection eliminates most, but not necessarily all organisms. Sterilization eliminates all organisms. What if there was an exposure incident at your spa? What would you do? It deserves some thought because they don't happen very often, so many feel unprepared in this area. Let's say your eyebrow scissors dropped from your hand and hit your client. Now they're bleeding. Stop the service. If you do not already have them on, put on gloves. Apply pressure to stop bleeding. Use an antiseptic wipe to clean the area and bandage the cut. You should always have a first aid kit in your spa room. Then clean and disinfect your workstation. Double bag any single-use item that has come in contact with the blood. Before removing gloves, make sure that your tools do not have any blood on them by cleaning them and then immerse them in EPA registered disinfectant. Recommend your client seeing their doctor should there be any signs of redness, swelling, pain, or if irritation develops. Remember, it is vital that you understand and follow the laws and rules of your state at all times. Your reputation, license, and other people's safety depend on it. Law is provided by federal and state legislature and determines scope of practice and establish guidelines. Rules are more specific standards of conduct that are updated frequently and established by regulatory agencies such as TDLR. Now, we hope you enjoy our interview with our expert, Dr. Carrie Lindeman. Dr. Lindeman, thank you so much for joining our expert panel today.
Hi, thank you.
We're so happy to have you and can't wait to hear what you have to say about our topic of sanitation and infection control. But first, can you tell us a little bit about your medical background?
Sure. I did my undergrad at Texas A&M and graduated with nutritional science degree. And then I went to medical school at UT Houston in the medical center, and then did my family medicine residency at the Methodist Family Medicine Residency Program in the medical center in Houston.
That's amazing. You were a part of some really great programs, and go Aggies. In your experience, what is some of the most common way diseases spread?
The most common way diseases spread is what's called direct contact transmission. That's going to be person to person. When we break that down, that's going to be either like aerosol or droplet, where people are coughing, sneezing, or even talking. You can also have open wounds or abraded skin, and someone can come in contact with those and spread viruses and diseases that way as well.
All right. Well, as you know, estheticians, we work with the general public in pretty close quarters. What would be some practical measures you would suggest we take for protecting ourselves and our clients?
One of the biggest measures that I could recommend would be to wear a surgical mask during your encounter with your client. When you're in such close proximity to the patient, it's important to provide a barrier of protection. Even if you yourself are not symptomatic, you may be carrying certain viruses, and you can transmit those with close proximity just by talking to someone. If you do have a client who's immune compromised, that could further increase their risk. So definitely wearing a surgical mask, sanitizing your hands and workspace before and after the treatment, and wearing surgical gloves or just regular gloves in general, so that if you do have a spot open or if the client has a spot open, we're not transmitting things that way.
Awesome. Well, those are definitely some practical suggestions we all should really consider. So how do vaccines work? You know, this is there's a lot of different types. I don't know. Tell me more.
So the most common vaccine people are familiar with is the flu vaccine. That is where we take an inactivated virus, so essentially a dead virus, and we put it in a preservative and put it in the flu shot. When we give the flu shot, it causes the body to develop antibodies to the flu virus itself. That way, whenever you come in contact with the flu virus later on, you already have your defense system prepared to fight the symptoms. With COVID, we were able to do a new type of vaccine, which honestly, it's been around for more than 20 years, but we just hadn't utilized it until this time. Obviously, we couldn't give the virus for COVID to people in order to do the vaccine. So we did what was called an mRNA vaccine. This is where we injected the mRNA protein as the vaccine, and this provided the blueprint so that the body knew how to build the antibodies to fight COVID when it comes in contact with it.
Awesome. Well, that really sheds some light on this really high topic conversation. What are some advantages and disadvantages of wearing a mask while an esthetician is giving a treatment?
So for the esthetician, the big advantage is that you are providing a safe, transmission-free environment, okay? Disadvantage is if you have a client who maybe is hard of hearing or is deaf and needs to read your lips, that's going to be difficult with a surgical mask. If you're an esthetician that wears glasses, the surgical mask can tend to fog them up and compromise your vision during the treatment. So there are advantages and disadvantages to wearing the masks.
Okay, so we just kind of have to weigh our options for our personal situation, see what's best for us.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Lindemann, if you were to go into a treatment room from an esthetician, what would signal to you that you could potentially be in an unhygienic environment?
If I walk into a treatment room, I'm expecting to see hand sanitizer, alcohol wipes, boxes of gloves, things that tell me that we're sanitizing in between treatments with clients, and things that tell me that we are taking care to not transmit any viruses, because viruses can even stay on desks, exam tables, things like that. So we need to make sure that whatever treatment room we step into has those items around and visible so that we know that we're getting proper sanitation before the treatment. And if as part of the prep for the treatment, if the face is not cleaned, the work area is not cleaned prior to the treatment, that would be a big red flag as well.
I think I'd run if any of those situations were happening. Well, in your clinic, Dr. Lindemann, what basic first aid training do you require your technicians to have?
So all of my staff will have the basic life-saving skills or BLS accreditation. It's something that's offered every 1 to 2 years, depending on which class they take. But this gives them the basic safety tools to know what to do in an emergency situation. For all of my providers who actually treat the patients, I do require an ACLS certification and that they know how to use an AED device and know where it's located in our clinic.
Awesome. So we as estheticians might consider getting those accreditations so that we would be prepared if something were to happen in our spas.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is something that happens a whole lot. I have a lot of clients call me asking me what to do. So say our client has a cold sore when they come for a facial service, should we proceed or reschedule?
If the patient has an active cold sore and coming in for a facial service, they need to be rescheduled. An active cold sore means that the virus is active and shedding. And if you were to proceed with the facial treatment, you could risk spreading the virus to other areas of the face or even having complications such as a bacterial infection or scarring.
Okay, so are there any other implications for the client if they were to proceed, or implications for the esthetician?
So it's more for the client than the esthetician, because the virus, especially if it's a cold sore, that's a herpes strain virus. If it spreads to other areas of the face, particularly the eyes, that's considered an ocular emergency. And for the esthetician themselves, if for some reason their immune system was compromised, you could also risk contracting that as well.
So stay-at-home clients, if you have a cold sore, got it. All right. Well, if we have a client who's undergoing radiation or chemotherapy, is it okay to treat them? And if so, what adjustments need to be made?
So when we talk about the neuromodulators like Botox or Dysport or even the fillers, those do not have an effect on the immune system. So they are considered generally safe to use in patients undergoing chemo or radiation treatments. When we talk about facials, we need to make sure that we're doing hydrative or restorative facials and not anything like a chemical peel or things like that that could damage the skin, because their skin is going to be different characteristic since they are undergoing those chemo or radiation.
Awesome. Well, thanks. That gives me a lot of peace of mind going forward with those types of clients. Well, since we're constantly inundated with information about new diseases in the media, we might become anxious. What are where do you recommend we get our information and education about these diseases?
When we're talking about education, especially with the media tending to hype things up a little bit, we need to start local. Start with your primary care physicians. They'll usually have Facebook pages or web pages where they'll post common things going on in the area. If you don't see what you're looking for, call their office and ask. If you can't get the information that you're looking for from your local sources, like your primary care doctors, the next step would be to go to the Texas Department of Health and Human Services website, and they have different links linking upcoming topics, hot topics that are going on in the state. And there again, if you can't find what you're looking for at that point, my recommendation would be to go to the CDC website.
All right, so some great sources for us to get some real, true information, especially with our local primary care physicians. That should always be our first step. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lindeman. It's been a pleasure to have you here at the SkinBiz Girls, and we love having you in our office, and we can't wait to talk to you again on our next TED Talk.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right, bye, Carrie.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the actual sanitation chemicals that we have as options for us. There are so many different choices. There's way more than this. So if you don't see the one that you like, don't worry. We have a few different brands and methods here, and I like to ensure that the EPA registered disinfectant that I use, I know really well. The first thing you always want to look for is the EPA registered number. So typically they're going to be close to the barcode. This one is EPA registered 67619295813. So that's one option. So on this salon disinfectant, it's actually right here. It's EPA registered number 95411. We also have this salon disinfectant, and it's the EPA registered number 10324-141-3974. So all of these cleansers are gonna have the EPA registered number somewhere on them. Just make sure whichever one you use, take the time to just double check that it has the number so it's safe to use. Some of these disinfectants are a no-brainer. This one, you would just spray and you've got your disinfection. Well, that's what you think. But honestly, if you take the time to read the backs of all of these bottles, they all have very specific ways they need to be used. Contact times differ for each one and what surfaces they can be used on. Let's take, for example, bleach. So for this bleach, it lets us know that if we want to sanitize our laundry, we actually have to measure out 2/3 of a cup. And to truly sanitize your laundry, it has to be in contact with your laundry for 10 minutes. So not only do you have to ensure that you're using the correct amount of bleach, but that your washer is on a cycle that allows the bleach to sit for 10 minutes. Some of these disinfectants are great, but they're not intended for salon use. We just wanted to show you the variety and the differences in all of them. So take that into account whenever you are choosing your EPA registered disinfectant. At the EPA, products used to kill viruses and bacteria on surfaces are registered as antimicrobial pesticides. Sanitizers and disinfectants are two types of antimicrobial pesticides. If it's a cleaner, the cleaning removes dirt and organic matter from surfaces using soap or detergents.
EPA only regulates cleaning products if they sanitize or disinfect. If the product is sanitizing, that means the product kills bacteria on surfaces using chemicals, and it's not intended to kill viruses. So, is it regulated? Yes. The EPA registers products that sanitize. If the product is a disinfecting agent, that means that the product kills viruses and bacteria on surfaces using chemicals. The EPA does regulate this product to disinfect. Cleansing hands with a sanitizer. Using hand sanitizer kills pathogens on the skin, but it's not EPA regulated. That falls under the Food and Drug Administration. Surface disinfectant products are subject to more rigorous EPA testing requirements that must clear a higher bar for effectiveness than surface sanitizing products. Many products are registered with EPA as both sanitizers and disinfectants because they've been tested using both methods. Let's take a closer look at the laundry sanitizer. If I'm only worried about bacteria, I can just throw a cup of this in my washer and make sure my rinse cycle is a full 16 minutes long. However, if I'm worried about viruses, I need to pour 2 capfuls into 1 gallon of water and soak the items for 15 whole minutes. Then machine wash as directed. This is to illustrate how important it is to read your labels and not rely on your good intentions. If you aren't fully informed on how to use your cleaners, you're taking a chance on you and your client's safety. Next, we're going to look at 2 options for EPA registered disinfectants that are intended for spa use and how to mix them and their contact times. To mix this product, remember it's highly concentrated. And before we get started, we want to put on gloves because all of these are pesticides, therefore they're very dangerous to our skin, especially if we're using them often. So for this mixing ratio, we need 1 gallon of water and just a ½ ounce of disinfectant. So I'm going to look here at how many ounces. This is a 1 ounce glass, so I'm only going to fill it halfway. Then go ahead and open my water and simply pour it in. Make sure to cover my cleaner. And seal my water. I like to give it a little shake. And now it's ready to go. If you have this mixture ready to use, you can dispense it in a submergible vat or in a spray bottle. Concentrated disinfectants are mixed with water and they're good for 30 days. This product can be used in an implement soaking jar. At that point, it would need to be discarded after 24 hours or when the liquid is cloudy, whichever comes first. What I love about this particular disinfectant is that it can be used on brushes. Its concentrate is pH neutral and safe to soak makeup brushes to achieve disinfection. After cleaning your brushes, soak them in your mixed solution for 10 minutes and then rinse them with water and let them air dry. Now we're going to mix our second spa cleaner disinfectant. This concentrate is mixed correctly by adding 2 ounces or 1/4 cup of concentrate to 32 ounces or 4 cups of cold water. Today, we're gonna mix 1 ounce
to 16 ounces of water so that I can add it directly to my vat. So 2 cups of water, and then I'm going to use this and do 1 ounce. Now, this liquid is ready to be put into my wet sanitizing vat. A great thing about this product is it can be used until it's gone. There is no expiration date for this disinfectant, and because it's in a closed container where nothing's being immersed, reducing the risk of contamination, it does not need to be changed. This disinfectant does need to be changed daily in containers used to submerge combs, brushes, shears, or implements. That is all tubs, glass, or plastic jars. It should also be changed whenever contaminated or diluted incorrectly. Whatever product you choose, look on their website for free certifications that will help you to be fully versed in the product that you choose, as they also provide certificates that you can display for your client.